guy, but he don't care about black executives. He wanted that soundbite on the interview before the Super Bowl so he can be a martyr and set this lawsuit up now. But this was this year. What I'm about to play you is the Huddle and Flow podcast. Him and Steve Watchie, the other NFL Network employee, talking to David Culley. David Culley was a 2021 head coach, black guy, of the Houston Texans. He was hired during all this Deshaun Watson not wanting to stay there and all that stuff. And Culley, they're trying to sort all this stuff out. Culley was never a special teams guy, but he gets a shot. He takes over this team. This is a long bite. I'm going to play a little bit for you. Then we'll stop it. But David Culley wasn't having none of it. But watch how they're trying to bait this guy. They're trying, him and this other guy, trying to bait him. And listen, he's already signed his contract. He could say what he wants to. He had already been working as the head coach. So Culley been around for a long time. He had everything locked in. He had the kitty by the genitals, like my dad would say. But listen to this soundbite and tell me this guy has got the best interest of blacks, or is he got the best interest of Jim Trotter, just like the other woman example I just played for you. Listen up, folks, if I can find it. I hope I recorded it right. You know what? I may have missed that thing. Nope, here it is. Here we go.
I went in with the.
Okay, this is David Culley, the then Houston Texans head coach, explaining the process of his hiring.
Philosophy of here's what I believe in. Here's what this 27 years I've been in NFL and the 16 years I've been in college that I have seen, and all the franchises that I have been around that have been winners. Here's the process. Here's what it has taken, and I've seen 4 of those happen, and I've been a part of that. And so, from when you asked me about the progress in this league, I look at myself as an example of saying, okay, I'm African American. I didn't have all those qualifications, but I got hired. I got hired, first of all, I think simply because they felt like I was the most qualified to do what this franchise needed to be done to get me to move it forward. Again, the second thing, being an African American, great, wonderful, but I never looked at it that way. And from that standpoint, for me being hired here, I think is progress from the standpoint of saying, okay, an African American in the situation that I've been in, don't think that you don't have a chance. Don't think.
See, he's being optimistic. They didn't like that answer, Pickles. They didn't like that answer, not even a little bit.
Simply because you're 65 years old and got your AARP card, that you don't really have an opportunity to be able to bring a franchise and do what you needed to do. And I felt
Listen
that way.
To their
and
response.
I looked at it from that standpoint. Go ahead, Jim.
Coach, let me say this to you, though. You're speaking to my point here. When you say you didn't have those qualifications, that's where I feel fundamentally the process is flawed. People try and attach certain positions to whether or not you're going to be a successful head coach, which is foolish to me. You don't have to be a coordinator. You don't have to be a QB coach. You have to first and foremost be a leader of men to be successful as a head coach. And everything else flows from there. So the fact that you had to wait almost 3 decades to even get an interview for a head coaching job says to me that the process is flawed and the way that they go about it is wrong. And add on your college coaching experience, it also speaks to that. So that's why I say, for me, personally, I hate to hear you say you didn't have those qualifications.
Now, you guys know that I've brought in another Pickles. I brought in on this program, okay, another, what's that guy's name, Pickles? I'm sure you've heard me talk about it on the program here. Another special teams coach, white guy, breaking news, who never got a shot to be an NFL head coach, okay? Remember, I'll find it real quick. Let's see. Figure It Out by Mike Westhoff. Mike Westhoff, same situation, Pickles. Same situation, Mike Westhoff. Okay. And so you see how he's trying to bait David Culley. Take the bait. Come on, man. You're a victim. Damn it. You're a victim. You will be a victim. Because if you say you're a victim, you're going to help my brand. You're going to help my brand. That's what he's really saying. And the conversation continues.
Because
Sorry
that
about that.
feeds into this narrative that you have to be a coordinator or you have to be this to
Listen
be a
to
head
this
coach.
comeback by
You don't.
Culley.
You have to be a leader of men. And as Tony,
This is long and drawn out, but that's Trotter still trying to bait David Culley, right? David Culley, before he was the head coach of the Houston Texans, he was the special teams coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. I'll set it up there. Listen up.
Dungy has said to us even on this podcast, owners don't know how to hire coaches because they fall into that trap of looking for all of these things that people talk about, but can never identify exactly what they believe it is, that the traits that are necessary to be a head coach. So I'm off my soapbox on that,
Right,
but I just felt me.
Let me reiterate what you just said. What you just said. So
Culley's
you
response.
said about not having the qualifications and whatnot. Well, I'll say this. I got hired here because of those things of what you just said. It has nothing to do with that. I get, so from that standpoint, I'm saying this franchise, the McNair family, when I interviewed with them and when I interviewed with Nick, that was what it was all about. I can remember before Jim, before I got this interview, when Nick called me, we were actually getting ready to play Buffalo in the playoff game. And all of a sudden it says, well, when this thing is over with, we'd like to talk to you. So when will you think you might be ready to do that? I says, I'm not sure I'm ready because I got to get all my book. I got to get my book together. I got to get my information together to be able to do that. The first thing he said to me says, I don't care about a book. He says, I don't care about a book. That's not what we're looking for. You know, we're looking for.
Most of these coaches, they got these books. They've got these, when they go for, they've got PowerPoints. Mike Tomlin was one of the best at it from what I understand. They're really good at that. And they hired this guy. And I still got some more of that bite.
For somebody to leave.
He ended up getting a $36 million contract he's still getting paid on today without the book or anything. But he explains this stuff. It's a little long and winded, but it is to make a better point. Listen up. David Culley.
This football team. And again, that being said, I got so excited, Jim and Steve, simply because way back when I put together that book. I've sat with Leslie Frazier and Eric Bieniemy, and I've sat with some of these guys, and we've gotten all these things together about, okay, this is what everybody has put together to be able to, when you go into the interview, you need to show these general managers, you need to show these owners these things. Man, all I took into that interview with me was myself. I didn't have one piece of paper with me when I went into that interview.
What?
Not one piece of paper with me into that interview.
And they still gave him a $36 million contract.
And Ozzie Newsome, who I have the ultimate respect for, is they said, be yourself. And then I said, look, I'm not paper and pencil. You know, I'm not that. That's not who I am. You know, so again, I go back to Jim to your point. I can't answer what you're saying about why it hasn't happened, but I just knew, though, in the example that I had, to me was an example of, again, you're looking for leaders of men, and Tony is so right. And again, that's what I feel like I've always been. Now, prior to getting this opportunity, all the other opportunities, and listen, I've been around guys probably during the last 10, 15 years that I feel like I helped get jobs, you know? I mean, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute, you know, I see this happen, I see that happen. And then you start to think about it. But let me go back to why I feel like I'm here now. Is that I've always been taught and told coming through this business is that the best thing you can do for getting your next job is to be the best that you can be at the job that you're at in whatever position that is. And I've taken that and I've used that. Now, have there been times when I've sat here and said, I can't use the words right here, but can I say it? Go for it. But I'm not going to.
It's a long-winded answer, folks. Listen up.
Why not me? Why can't I get an opportunity to do this? But again, I always went back to that thing of being the best that you can be at what you're doing. And again, I got to the point where it wasn't like I was looking for one, and it wasn't like if it never happened, that I would be disappointed during my career. I wasn't. I was completely happy that with where I was at, with what I was doing, and still believed at some point, especially when I came to Baltimore with John Harbaugh, he reassured me. And going back to Jim, to what you said earlier about qualifications, Andy Reid didn't call plays when he became a head coach. Prior to Andy Reid becoming a head coach, we were told you needed to be a coordinator. Well, he wasn't a coordinator. He got hired. So then that one got thrown out the window because he got hired.
Coach, there are so many of those that have been thrown out the window and exceptions have been made for those. And that's part of the frustration here.
Correct.
That I think black coaches have always been told you have to follow this path, and they follow that path.
He goes right back to it.
And then they're not afforded the opportunity
to listen to David's
to have a shot at being a head coach.
I was one of those that have been told that. And then again, I'm going to go back and use John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh wasn't a coordinator when he got the job.
Nope.
When Ozzie Newsome hired John Harbaugh was the defensive back coach. Yep. And the reason he went to be a defensive back coach, and I'm just going to tell you this here too, is because he said, they're not hiring special teams coaches. Well, here's a guy that's not African-American that's saying, look, I'm a special teams coach. They're not going to hire me.
See, totally shut down that race-baiting nonsense that Trotter was trying to get at him. Jim Harbaugh, I forgot, he was a special teams guy, but before he got the head coaching job, he was the defensive back coach. And then he ends up getting, now, of course,